Hello everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. We have a fascinating interview video today with Pradeep from SelfCare joining the channel. We'll be talking about the blockchain integration and digitalisation of the healthcare industry. A massive background in healthcare that Pradeep has, along with some extra great knowledge of what Solve can provide as a solution to pretty much bring healthcare to anyone and everyone around the world, wherever you are. Now, guys, a few things to point out. Of course, in behind me, you can see some of the pointers as to how blockchain and Solve can bring solutions to the table, indeed what they provide as solutions. But we can talk about as well some statistics in a second. There are over 2 billion people around the world that are unbankable. This means they don't have access to a bank account currently. Of course, digital currency is allowing more and more people to come into the bankable world and have a name for themselves in the financial aspirations of the world. But of course, there's an element of uncared as well. So these terminologies will be talked about in this interview. Absolutely fascinating to talk about those numbers. But on the point of numbers, I wanted to bring these elements to our attention as well. So if we look at some of these statistics here, this is about the global market in digital health, okay? So in 2022, the valuation of digital health was valued at $211 billion. Absolutely phenomenal number right there. And by 2030, this is anticipated to increase by 18.6%. So we've already got a market value that we can look at from an investment perspective, or certainly from our mindsets as to how big this market can actually be in terms of the digitalization of healthcare. Now, this is obviously not massively incorporating the aspects of IoT, AI, data, cloud, of course, blockchain as well. But there's certainly some aspects here that we really need to think about as the healthcare industry evolves. And we'll definitely talk about a bit more of that in the interview video as well. But here's some other interesting things. By 2030, there will be a shortage of around 15 million healthcare workers. What does this do? It means it puts more strain on the healthcare systems that we've got currently, and it pretty much may shaft more and more people into a digital format, because right now there is such easy access to private healthcare or healthcare apps that you can download off the iOS platforms and Google Androids, etc. And it's fairly easily accessible, despite the fact as well that many people don't have access to the internet or that ability to get digital healthcare in general. So these things will develop and evolve over time for sure, but there's absolutely staggering numbers there. The other thing as well is the population demand. So we've got healthcare workers dropping, we've got population rising, and according to the World Health Organization, or the WHO, there will be also this number here, which is absolutely fascinating. There were over 703 million individuals aged 65 and above in 2019. This number is estimated to reach 1.5 billion by 2050. Now, this is a 20-30 year gap here, and that's pretty much a generation, right? But something needs to give, okay? And certainly from the healthcare perspective, particularly here in the UK, we have things like NSEs, etc., that help pay, i.e. tax elements towards healthcare costs. That is relatively a bit of a mix-up at the moment as to what's going on with our public health system here in the UK. Entities have changed within the government. Similar things have happened around the world. Of course, America privatized itself a while back and see a lot of high costs with medical care, attention, and time of medical institutions as well. So these are all things that are accumulating number-wise, not just in market value, but the actual representation of how difficult the healthcare system may come, certainly in the traditional areas that we have today, in the near future. So this is a perfect opportunity to discuss further the digitalization of healthcare and, of course, the applications behind that, the algorithm, the technology behind this, blockchain, and how the Solve token in particular can help us move forward. So let's go straight into this conversation, and I'm sure at the end of this video we'll go into a bit more of a deep dive around some of those other elements that we just spoke about. But hopefully you enjoy this one. It's very informative, and I'll see you on the other side. So Pradeep, welcome to the channel. It'd be absolutely fantastic and massively appreciated by our audience if you could do a quick introduction about yourself and, of course, Solve as a solution, and, of course, your team, if there's any information about the team that you can provide as well.
Sure. So first, thank you for having me on your show, Simon, and it is a pleasure. And hello
Thank
to the
you.
audience. And about myself, I have been in healthcare now for 30 plus years in various roles where I had the ability to either build systems or processes or influence policies that impacted a lot of people, tens of millions of people.
Mm.
And in that journey, I learned a lot about what works and what doesn't work in healthcare. And of course, I'm a parent and I have children, and one of my kids needs a lot of healthcare. And I have had the privilege also working in insurance space in the public health sector, as I mentioned. So I'm one of the few people who've had the opportunity to both use and define healthcare at a global scale. And it has been a journey that has led me to both appreciate what healthcare does for humanity, but also all the challenges that make it less than desirable in its current form. About
Awesome.
SelfCare, go ahead, please.
No, Karen, please.
So you asked the question about SelfCare. So I have built other healthcare IT companies in the past. SelfCare is a culmination of much of my learning over 30 plus years, with the real mission that we should be able to redo the healthcare infrastructure to really empower the patient and the physician to have a more effective and engaged role. And much of today's healthcare doesn't afford that. So SolveCare was built to reimagine and redefine the way parties communicate and collaborate with each other, and taking the best lessons from other industries that do it better than healthcare, but also applying those lessons to the particular complexities and peculiarities of healthcare. So SolveCare is a platform company similar to Salesforce.com or SAP or PeopleSoft or Oracle, but really designed to make healthcare function better with a focus on you and I and our physicians. About my team, we are spread all over the world. We have a team in 12 countries. So literally the sun never sets in the office. We always have some part of the world SolveCare is operating. It's a very passionate team. It's made up of young talent, experienced talent, healthcare, blockchain, decentralized computing, architecture. So we're a very diverse team. And I'm very proud of them because they have taken on a mission that is not for the faint of heart. And this team has conceived of a platform that very few people can conceive of. And then they're building the platform, which is even fewer in the world who can actually build something like this. So it's a very team that I'm very proud to lead.
That's brilliant. You mentioned two words there, healthcare and blockchain in the same sentence. That kind of leads us quite nicely into probably our first topical question, Pradeep. So let's talk a bit about not necessarily the history of healthcare. Obviously, you've got a massive background in that area, but why do you feel, and you're probably one of the best positioned people to talk about this, why do you feel that healthcare has a need for blockchain as a solution? And what does SolveCare provide as a solution to that particular area and sector?
It's a great question. I will try to be brief because this is a big topic,
Yeah.
and then we can dive deeper. So healthcare is particularly complex in the sense that it suffers from three fundamental barriers, which are not so common in other industries. The first problem we have in healthcare is information silos. And in that regard, our information as a patient or as a best practices or as payment, these are all locked up inside systems that are very, very uniquely designed to protect this information, and they're not designed to share this information. So even as a patient, it's hard for me to get hold of all my records from all the healthcare institutions who have piece of my records. And even if they wish to share with me, it's very hard to do so. The same problem afflicts the providers. They can't get hold of my complete history. So there's a lot of duplication and waste that goes into that, and there's also a lot of risk. So that's one problem. The second problem in healthcare is care silos. Because healthcare is a very expensive service or a right, whether the society offers it for free or charges for it, it's very expensive. So therefore, there is a huge concern around proper utilization of healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
And that creates these care silos. They are referred to as provider networks or as integrated delivery networks, or they're referred to as your geography. You're bound to a certain care provider universe based on where you live or based on who you are insured with. So these care silos can vary dramatically and limit your access to care. And if you happen to have a condition that your care silo is not particularly equipped to deal with, well, then you're out of luck. And that happens a lot more than people realize. And we have learned to accept these silos because they're kind of like invisible walls of a prison. And if you can't see the prison, you don't just try to escape from it. But these silos exist very clearly in our life. The third big silo is payment silo, which adds to the complexity of the other two. So depending on who is paying part of your healthcare, they will try to determine where you get healthcare and how much you get healthcare, and then how they're going to pay for it. So whether you are part of a public health program like National Health Service,
Mm-hmm.
or whether you're part of a public health program in the US like Medicare or Medicaid, or you're part of the elderly care program in Korea, everywhere there are payment-driven silos, which then determine your first two silos. So these three barriers exist in every part of the world in different level of intensity, but they always exist. So as a result, you need something particularly powerful and unique to cut across these information, care, and payment silos. And it's not easy to do that. In fact, I've been trying to do this for 30 plus years without some kind of a global trusted fabric. So healthcare of all entities or all sectors is in desperate need of a common fabric on which care, payment, and benefits and information can flow, where every party can define and execute their particular role, but they don't have to be controlled by and should not be controlled by other entities or by any singular entity. So to connect these silos together, you need some kind of a fabric that everybody can use, everybody can trust, but nobody controls. And therein lies the power of blockchain. So we can dive deeper into that, but fundamentally, because you have so many different stakeholders with so many different perspectives and so many different business models, how do you get them to all collaborate on any system? The answer is no single system will serve the purpose. So you have to build something which serves them all, and that's where blockchain becomes really powerful.
That's brilliant. I guess, like, in terms of SelfCare's solutions, so the way the world is going at the moment, or has been for a while now, is very digitally focused. Now, of course, there's a kind of global realization or occurring at the moment in terms of adoption of blockchain and Web3 across multitude of sectors. And we've seen like a lot of the, I guess, like the public health systems not fully disappearing, but certainly diminishing, and more application towards the digital side of solutions and service to people. And definitely more private services are coming out of the woodwork with that kind of formulation of a solution as well. Do you think now is a great time for the integration of such things like SelfCare? And also, you know, what can be done in terms of like SelfCare as a solution to these people? How does it benefit people potentially around the world that are perhaps in some remote areas? And there's a reason why I asked that, is because ironically, in one of our previous videos we did around SelfCare, someone commented, I think they were in New Zealand somewhere in a very rural area, and they had to spend about 4 or 5 hours to get to their local medical center. But they do have internet connection and things like this, but there's this whole scenario there of actually like accessibility to healthcare is still not amazing for a lot of parts of the world. And even in our countries here in the United Kingdom, it can still be quite difficult to get that access. So how do you feel SelfCare provides a solution and answer that really benefits people out there?
Yeah. So let's break that down. So from an access to care perspective, we believe that the future of healthcare is where the care comes to you rather than you going to go get care. It's all, people talk about a hospital in your hand or hospital in your home or hospital on your mobile, teleconsultations, home diagnostics. All of these are just trend lines. They're pointing to the same goal, that instead of me going to go get care, let the care come to me when I need it. So that reversal of model is a steady steps that everybody's taking in that direction. Why? One, because you eliminate a lot of access barriers. You also eliminate equity issues in terms of inequity in care. You also eliminate cost when you don't have to spend the time commuting or waiting or getting delayed in care, which adds to all the costs. So it's more efficient, it's more effective, it's more patient, consumer, society friendly, and it delivers better results because it's more timely. So in that sense, majority of the care will move towards care comes to you rather than you go to get care. And in there, digital ecosystem will play a big role. And you will have to manage, or we are working towards managing, how do we set up appointments? How do we share records? How do we get a prescription filled? How do you get your lab test to the doctor? How do you even get your lab test done? How do you, make a payment? And so on and so forth. How do you go see a specialist if you need to go see a specialist? So in a care coming to you, the digital version of the future of care, the new version of healthcare, which is where care should come to your home, all these issues need to be addressed, and SelfCare platform squarely addresses all of these challenges. So that's one statement. The second part of it is that when you look at a rural access, whether it's based on economic or geographic or lack of providers, any number of issues where there's an imbalance between demand and supply, or a huge delay in getting the care to the patient, we come back to the same issue that we should be able to bring care to the patient instead of getting the patient to get up and go 4 hours to a local community health center. So it doesn't solve every issue, but certainly it eliminates a vast majority of issues that are related to delayed care, whether it's acuity of problem, because the longer you wait, the more sicker you're going to get, the harder it's going to take to recover, and the more money it's going to cost. So we know from all the statistical analysis over the last 50 years that delayed care is almost as bad as denied care. So how does SelfCare help with that? So SelfCare has this fabric, a global platform on which you can design care networks. A care network is an ecosystem that targets a specific population of patients and connects them to a certain population of providers. But you can imagine this ecosystem to be geographic, or it can be global, or it can be based on specialty. But it's an ecosystem of patients and providers connected to each other. So I can build an ecosystem, let's say, of some rare disease for which the likelihood of you having a specialist in your whatever country you live in, whatever city you live in, is low. So you will need to access care wherever these specialists are. So you could create an ecosystem for this particular disease condition. Or you could create an ecosystem around a city or a country or around the globe. And you could build an ecosystem where patients can get access from any provider who has availability or you can afford. So the notion of SelfCare is that let healthcare evolve without boundaries. The only boundary is the one you define for yourself. And you define that boundary by designing a network or joining a network that serves you the best. So there are two sides to this equation. One is our clients are publishing networks which involve more patients, more doctors. And then patients have a choice of networks to join, which gives them access to the right doctor at the right price. So that intersection of demand and supply is what SelfCare platform manages. On the demand side, patients can access any network. And on the supply side, any network can be opened up to any patient around the world. And that creates this different way of managing both imbalance in demand and supply and also affordability, and also addresses access. So those are the three things we are doing. And to achieve that, you need a very robust platform that handles all dimensions of healthcare transactions, be it records or appointments or referral or diagnostic check or bills or payments. And SelfCare platform is designed to address all these healthcare transactions inherently.
It's really interesting because I love projects and technologies that are really enhancing the world and really giving a solution that help people. I feel like SelfCare is massively up there, certainly in my mind, as one of those kind of companies that does that. What would be really interesting to talk about is the Solve token. So obviously, in terms of the audience that we've got, many hold Solve already, but there's a lot more people coming into the channel and a lot more people getting very interested in the healthcare sector when it comes to cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. For those that don't know, how does the Solve token actually work within the ecosystem and the utilization of SelfCare as a service? That would be really good to go down into a bit more detail.
Sure. So Solve token serves multiple purposes, but from a patient perspective, you can use it to pay for appointments or for consultations or have devices shipped to your home or even fulfill prescriptions. So that's one use of it. And because it's a digital token which works inside a network, the token automatically conforms to compliance and rules of the network. So in doing so, you can access care that you would first not be able to even find. Second, if you find it, you won't be able to get an appointment with. And third, you won't be able to get able to pay for it using traditional banking systems. So Solve token eliminates a lot of those payment barriers, one of the silos I talked about. The second is it gives you the ability to shop for services. So in the sense that you have the ability to compare prices across countries and across specialties and across specialists by just looking at the price in Solve tokens, not in Chinese yuan versus US dollar versus Korean won. You're simply looking at and saying, I have a cardiologist who is willing to give me a second opinion on my latest EKG, and I can see a price range between 1,000 solved and 100,000 solved, and I'm going to pick something that I can afford. You can also buy Solve tokens easily because you can purchase them right in the wallet. From that perspective, you can effectively invest in your future of health and your future ability to pay for health by accumulating Solve while it is still in the lower end of the utility spectrum. So there are many ways we are trying to help everybody in the world try to get access to care, but the fundamental value is with Solve in hand, you can access a wide array of networks, which give you a wide array of choices and specialties and level of expertise. And you have the choice of working with the physician or the care provider, be it a primary care or a specialty care or alternative medicine provider or traditional Chinese medicine, doesn't matter. You can choose the right network and pay and Solve. And that gives you enormous flexibility. And also, you are protected. If the appointment doesn't happen, Solve tokens to the provider won't get released. They'll get reverted to you automatically because the physician didn't keep up their side of the bargain. So the contract will not release tokens to them. So you're protected in that sense that you don't pay and hope, you pay for what you received. So there are many different ways Solve is bringing, the token is bringing equity to the healthcare transaction, fairness.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. I think certainly from my side, when we talked about the healthcare industry in particular, and of course with blockchain at the moment, the way it is, the integration of things like artificial intelligence as well. Who knows the technological advancements over the next few years with potential chips or biometrics, etc., where we're getting to this defined area where actually you could be anywhere in the world and receive service, but also to an extent where actually you might need immediate service. It's already told you before you even know it, or you don't have to scramble around various different doctor's surgeries to get your information or your credentials about your health history, which is some of the complications that happen in this moment in time. I think it's really interesting as well from that point of not just the AI integration and things, but there's over 2 billion people unbankable at the moment in the world. And I know we touched on it slightly before, but I just wanted to reiterate that point really, that improving the lives of people worldwide is absolutely a huge opportunity there to do so, and particularly with like the solutions that you are bringing to the table. Because there's more digital wallets than ever before, and why not add that philosophy of healthcare to that as well? Do you see that is a something that we're going to see more adoption worldwide? Are there any barriers for adoption of this kind of service? Do you see any at all?
So first, I love the analogy of the unbanked, because in healthcare, you have a very large population that has access to primary care, but not really the care they need. So more than half the global population will suffer from the top 10 chronic diseases in the coming decades. And all the statistical trend lines show that more than 4 billion people will pass from these top 10 diseases.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a huge variety of treatments and very well-defined treatment models available, but because they're not uniformly enforced, therefore people suffer needlessly or suffer enormously in both. So one of the things that we see is our mission is to ensure that there is equitable and equal access to care, regardless of your zip code or your social and economic status. So more than half of humanity is highly relevant to us as people we want to ensure have access to the right information, the right set of choices, and the ability to pay for those choices and to prolong their life and live a meaningful life. So there's a lot of commonality between unbanked and uncared. And they tend to be the same. In many cases, those who don't have a bank account also don't have a primary care physician. And even if they have one, they don't have the ability to pay. So there is a huge overlap between those populations. But the healthcare population, the uncared group, is much bigger than the unbanked. You might say there are 2 billion people who don't have a bank account. There's probably 4.5 billion people who don't know how to manage their chronic diseases properly.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent. In terms of the impact of digital wallets, absolutely. As people adopt digital, they become familiar with the digital asset world. Your medical records are your assets also. Your identity is your asset. So is your crypto, tokens are your asset. But digital assets go beyond just the tokens in your wallet. Your identity, your data, you are an asset. So we've just launched a new network called Care Trials. And this is the first network of its kind where I, as a patient or as a consumer, have the ability to be matched to clinical trials in my area based on my health profile. And I can browse and indicate my interest and potentially submit my interest in that network anonymously. So this is a zero-knowledge network where neither the trial administrator nor the patient need to know much about each other to first determine if they are the right fit. And once you have agreed upon the compensation and the eligibility, then and only then the right level of identity is exchanged between the two parties. And in doing so, I have a lot of ability to participate in healthcare that I did not have yesterday. And it may surprise you to say there are over 80,000 open trials at any given time.
Wow.
More than 80,000 clinical trials are active at any given time. And you and I probably would qualify, even if you qualify for 1%, it's 800 trials that we could potentially benefit from by participating economically, clinically. And if I have a diabetes risk in my family, how many of those trials should I be aware of? And how many of them I should participate in, because that will help accelerate diabetic care later in my life, and how much I'm going to get paid to do that. So this zero-knowledge network is a way for many, in fact, almost all of us who are not engaged in the healthcare discovery and advancement and research side, and where we stand to gain both societally, clinically, and economically, we don't participate in that because we don't know. And even if I knew, I would be hesitant to share my identity with them. So this zero-knowledge network, a first of its kind, lets us match consumers worldwide to trials worldwide in a very logical and efficient way. And it works similar to a dating app. You're swiping through trials and it finds a match and says, hey, you are a perfect match for this trial. Would you like to proceed further? So that kind of a model where I get paid and to get better care for myself is really an example of the advancements in technology. So bringing that back to crypto wallets, in our case, Care Wallet is a digital asset wallet. It's a digital identity wallet. It's a medical record wallet. It's also a wallet of your medical history, in the sense it stores all the events that happened in your life, like appointments, referrals, refills, diagnostic tests. So it eliminates the need for duplication when duplication is unwarranted. So if I just had an EKG 67 days ago, my physician doesn't need to run another one on me unless they want something more recent. So this care wallet that we have built is a culmination of clinical, financial, and identity in my life history, all in one place in my control. And that makes me a much better patient, a much more effective patient, or makes me a much more effective parent when dealing with my son's health. So that's clearly the way to go.
That's fascinating. I'm really looking forward to seeing the further developments of all this in that area. I suppose it's a good opportunity, Pradeep, to perhaps discuss anything that is coming up for self-care in the near future or the distant future. Anything that you can share is obviously massively welcomed. So yeah, the floor is yours, because I'm really intrigued to know what more might be around the corner for you guys.
So I already mentioned Care Trials, which is one of our latest new networks, but there's a number of really important advancements that SelfCare is working on. One of them is the integration of the large language model, what we call ChatGPT AI type of capability into the Care Wallet, giving the patient a more easier way to navigate through healthcare challenges and healthcare options. The second thing that we are really excited about is the next release of the platform will enable anyone who knows Python as a programming language to really write very powerful healthcare journeys, which they can use to both transform healthcare in their nook of the world, but they can also make significant revenue. So those two things, the intersection of AI with the Care Wallet and the ability to extend the wallet with Python to create very powerful care cards, which is the building block of everything in our system, and to generate significant revenue and participation by a global Python community. So those two are really big things. In general, though, we see the SelfCare's growth curve in front of it as a very steep curve of growth, because we have demand from the top university hospitals around the world wanting to build care networks and research networks on our platform. In addition to normal primary care and chronic care, we're also getting a lot of interest from pharmaceutical and from research organizations. So as an offshoot of our Care Trials network. So there's a lot happening. I think if you, as a consumer, wish to experience what we can do, download the Care Wallet. Right now it's on iOS. An Android version is coming in a few weeks. And join the Care Trials network and browse through the trials and understand how your identity is protected and how you have the opportunity to participate in the advancement of healthcare, as well as to get paid for doing so. You'll be surprised how many options are in your part of the world. Look for new networks that are coming right behind it. And I think by the end of the year, we'll have more than a dozen networks in the wallet for you to choose from hypertension to renal failure to diabetes, weight loss, and all those disease conditions that affect most of humanity. They're all coming, which means one wallet, access to a global ecosystem of healthcare. You'll be able to take better care of yourself and your kids and your parents. So download the wallet, get engaged, help test it, help use it, give us advice on how to make it better, and actually make some money along the way.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's great to have that open ethos to allow people to feedback and improve things all the time. Pradeep, it's been absolutely fantastic to have you on the channel. Some really insightful stuff there. Obviously, be massively appreciated to hopefully get you back on in the near future. Very excited to see these developments from the trial aspect of things as well. I'm definitely going to be jumping on that shortly after this. But yeah, of course, we'll leave in the description below any links and social aspects to SelfCare as well. It's an absolutely phenomenal, massive sector, huge market potential, of course. But the integration of blockchain Web3 with the likes of yourselves is going to be absolutely fantastic to see those developments further, Pradeep. So I really appreciate your time, and I really massively appreciate what you guys are doing. As I said, very enthused about projects that are trying to help the world, trying to help people, as well as improve the sectors that they're in as well. So this is fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Simon, for having me. We'll look forward to coming back. And thank you to the audience. We'll be in touch.
Thanks, Pradeep. Bye-bye. Well, guys, I hope you found that interview fascinating. I really enjoyed talking to Pradeep, and I'm sure we'll have him back on the channel very soon. Behind me, which I'll leave a link to in the description below, it's just a bit of a snippet here from Deloitte around the utilization of blockchain and healthcare. Now, we've talked about in the past about the potential application of chipsets going inside us, who knows, in the near future. But that algorithmic data is quite interesting and important to discuss and think about. The opportunity for future predictions, if you like, of your health could be massively important. So you could have, for example, a chipset that talks to you and says, Simon, you're going to have a heart attack in 2 weeks. This then operates a drone delivery of some pharmaceutical medicine that is paid for by tokens. I don't need to get my wallet out or get my card out or anything like that and pay for them specifically. It's all done automatically, hence the whole point of blockchain, really, to simultaneously move tokens and assets around, of course, simultaneously and based on AI data. Now, that's just me, but imagine anyone and everyone else out there as well. And not just that might sound a bit sci-fi. It's probably definitely coming in the near future from certainly the research that I've done. But even just from the aspect of digital health records, whether you're abroad or in the UK, as Pradeep said, it doesn't matter where you are, you should still have access to healthcare. And in this instance at the moment, so here in the UK, we have health cards that we can take with us on holiday. And it's not necessarily an insurance policy, but it just allows the opportunity to have healthcare given to us wherever we are with a bit of an understanding of our health record, but it's still physical. And sometimes a lot of time is taken up with that and a lot of cost as well from that ability of taking up people's time to research those areas and find out who is this person and what attention do they actually need, or what's their history medically, all these things, are they allergic to stuff, etc., yes or no. So all these things can be digitalized and sped up. So we get a better, more efficient healthcare service as well, and it's accessible wherever we are. And particularly with the digitalization of that, it's not like I'm going from a UK hospital to one abroad. I'm actually being able to access healthcare through the palm of my hand, through video, through text format, however you want to do it, and decide and decipher what is wrong with me or what needs to be done. Now, of course, in some instances, you might have to come in for a physical examination. But again, those kind of things could be operated through tokenization as well, eliminating that possibility of cross-border payments or the cost of things. It can actually just be done in a residual format, where we have a fairer system and a fairer price point across the board. And from the medical stance, they get paid instantly, you're paying instantly, utilizing that tokenization aspect as well. So there's those areas, of course, AI, we just mentioned, the artificial intelligence aspect of things that could be connected to us one day soon, has a really big impact on that as well. So if you start thinking about these things in motion as the future goes by, this is how we start seeing an opportunity, whether it be through investment or just a general interest in these kind of sectors and opportunities. So for me personally, the Solve token as a topic point here, of course, as these things develop, as the healthcare system that we know today diminishes and we become more privatized or digitalized, certainly, we have an opportunity for these tokens to have real massive utility. And of course, that will ultimately potentially drive up the price and the value of a token. And particularly in these kind of situations where demand increases, healthcare aspects increase, albeit that generally speaking, as a generation, we are healthier than ever before. But of course, we then have all these other things going on where things like diabetes, mental health is kicking in significantly over the last 15, 20 years or so. These are aspirational areas of interest to really help more and more people around the world, and certainly those that don't have access or easy access to healthcare, to really create a more equal world. And I think that's why I love this kind of project so much, of SelfCare and the healthcare blockchain industry in general, because I think there's a great opportunity to enhance the lives of many people around the world and make it a fairer, more equal place, both from the price point perspective and the access perspective as well. So as I said, hopefully you have enjoyed this video. There's many more things to talk about in the healthcare industry. I might do an individual video on that. But again, thanks Pradeep for coming onto the channel from SelfCare. We'll have them back on very soon. And as always, we will continue to cover SelfCare and all the other great projects that we try to and of course ones that you want us to cover in addition. Let us know in the description below if there's any others in the healthcare industry or blockchain in general that you want us to cover, and we will do so for sure as and when we get the time. But thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next interview video episode. Bye bye.